Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk disinformation and set the record straight on fakes about Ukraine. I'm Marko Suprun, and this week we dissect the following. Russia keeps pushing Ukrainian involvement in the downing of MH17. Ukraine can't stand up to Russia in the Azov Sea. And Kyiv boasts about Crimean drought. Details ahead. Scores of Russian media declared last week that the Netherlands were not ruling out Ukraine's responsibility in the downing of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 that was shot down on July 17, 2014, while flying over Russian separatist-occupied eastern Ukraine. TASS, Vzglyad, Komsomolskaya Pravda, and scores of other pro-Kremlin media disseminated this distorted version of events, claiming that after parliamentary debates, the Dutch Foreign Ministry was including Ukraine as a responsible party to MH17's downing. Holland's Foreign Minister, Stef Blok, said the cabinet does not exclude that Ukraine is liable in the disaster, Russian media wrote, citing the Dutch publication Het Parool. Now, the Dutch parliament did hold a session devoted to MH17 in an attempt to hold Russia accountable for the crash of the Malaysian jet after an international team of investigators said that a Russian military missile was responsible for shooting down the flight. According to the Netherlands public broadcasting website, during the debates, both coalition and opposition MPs all agreed that the Russian government must be held accountable for the tragedy. Several Dutch parties did bring up the possibility of investigating the role of Ukraine in the flight's crash. However, the issue is not Ukraine's responsibility for the tragedy, but rather questioning why Ukraine did not close the airspace over the conflict area. An international group of investigators conducted a 4-year probe into the plane's downing and found legal and convincing evidence that the missile that shot down MH17 belonged to the Russian army. Based on the group's findings, the Netherlands and Australia said they are holding Russia responsible for the tragedy. At a news conference in the Netherlands, the joint investigative team revealed the Buk missile that downed the plane came from Russia's 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade based in Kursk. Dutch Foreign Minister Stef Blok repeated this position during his speech at the May 29 UN Security Council session. On June the 5th, Russian media reported that Ukraine's military admitted that its state border service was incompetent and ineffective compared to Russia's border agency. Russian publications cite Ukraine's state border service spokesman Oleg Slobodyan, who allegedly said that the service used outdated equipment and would not be able to withstand a confrontation in the Sea of Azov with Russia's border service. Russian media focus on one phrase, which they take completely out of context from a larger interview Slobodyan gave to the Ukrainian television channel UA First. Both Ukraine and Russia share the territory of the Azov Sea, but Russia does not adhere to good manners when it comes to the sea and behaves very provocatively, Slobodyan said. Ukraine will conduct maritime exercises to demonstrate that it is ready to stand its ground should Russia resort to aggressive actions. Slobodyan did say that some of Ukraine's technical equipment used by its border guards is outdated, and compared to Russia's border capacity, Ukraine's is less powerful. He also pointed out that Ukraine's naval border guards are not alone in the Azov Sea, and that Ukraine's armed forces are developing defense and security countermeasures should Kyiv be confronted with Russian aggression in the Azov Sea basin. Now, Russian media conveniently ignored the second part of Slobodyan's statement, focusing only on Ukraine's old patrol boats, which they deemed outmatched by Russia's naval might. According to a 2003 Ukraine-Russia agreement, the Azov Sea is a shared marine area, and the fleets of both Ukraine and Russia have the right to sail anywhere on that sea. Several pro-Kremlin Russian media disseminated stories this week claiming that Ukrainian MP Mustafa Dzhemilev, the leader of the Crimean Tatar Medjlis Representative Council, boasted about the water problems Ukraine had created for Crimea and said that even if Ukraine allowed water from the mainland to reach the Russian-annexed peninsula, it could always turn it off. The stories are filled with phrases pulled out of context and claims that Ukraine created Crimea's water problems by shutting off the taps from the mainland, and that agriculture in Crimea is being destroyed because of drought. On June the 2nd, Crimea's new Russian masters declared an emergency situation in 4 regions of the peninsula brought on by severe drought. At the beginning of June, Crimea's agrarian ministry also announced that due to drought, this year's projected harvest would be half of the previous year's. Now, the Ukrainian web publication Obozrevatelь published Mustafa Dzhemilev's reaction to Crimea's water problems. There is certainly no boasting or bragging in what Dzhemilev says. He simply confirms that Crimea has water shortages and as a result, agriculture is suffering. Ukraine provided up to 85% of fresh water supplies to Crimea through the North Crimean Canal from the Dnipro River. After Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, Crimea stopped paying its water bills to Ukraine, resulting in massive debt. Ukraine then ceased supplying water to Crimea. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin held his annual question and answer television session, Direct Line. Ukrainians and Russians are one people. The Ukrainian government is incapable of governing. The war in eastern Ukraine is not of Russia's making. These are just some of Putin's views on Ukraine. For more details, visit our website, StopFake.org. That's it for this week. Be vigilant. Don't consume fakes. If you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, send it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Marko Suprun, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.